Hi, I am going to make a video today to explain to Singaporeans how the education financing system in Singapore works. Specifically, I will consolidate the financing for the universities, polytechnics, ITEs, LaSalle and NAFA. So let's begin. You would have known earlier this week that there was the revelation that the government gives $130 million in scholarships to international students. The government also gives $210 million to international students in terms of their tuition grants. This was revealed in 2014. Now, we make a big fuss over these amounts because we talk about why the government is not giving it to Singaporeans instead of to international students. But now let me tell you what the bigger issue is. In 2017, the government actually gave $3.7 billion in operating grants to the universities, polytechnics, ITEs, LaSalle and NAFA. Now in 2017, these universities actually had $1.3 billion in net surpluses. So this is the money that they earn. Now in 2017, Singaporeans also paid about $1 billion in tuition fees to the universities, polytechnics, ITEs, and LaSalle and NAFA. Now, if you can see what this means that the Singapore government actually pays enough in terms of the operating grants to allow the institutions to operate. And what Singaporeans are paying in tuition fees, as well as the fees that the international students are paying, this actually goes into the surplus, which means that Singaporeans are paying for the profits of the universities, polytechnics, ITEs, and LaSalle and NAFA. So the thing is that the Singapore government is actually using Singaporeans' taxpayers' money to fund the institutions. Now that's fine, but then Singaporeans are paying for the profits. This then means that Singaporeans are actually double paying, or triple paying if you would like. If we're already paying in tax, which would fund the operation required for these institutions, then why are we paying an additional just so that all these institutions could earn a profit? In effect, Singaporeans do not even need to pay this amount because there's enough for the universities to operate on based on the taxes that we're paying. And they would not need to earn a surplus. They are earning a surplus because we are paying the university fees, which are actually the 5th highest in the world when you compare it in terms of purchasing power parity. Singaporeans are therefore paying one of the most expensive tuition fees in the world so that the universities, polytechnics, ITEs, LaSalle and NAFA can earn the profit. In effect, if we do not pay this, Singaporeans can actually have free education today because we are paying enough in taxes to enable the institutions to operate and give us an education without us having to pay that fee. Now, I'm going to tell you an even bigger problem because the institutions have actually accumulated $18 billion in total reserves and accumulated surpluses in the universities, polytechnics, ITEs, LaSalle and NAFA. So what this means is that these institutions have accumulated surpluses 18 times what Singaporeans pay in universities, in university fees, polytechnic, ITE, LaSalle and NAFA fees. 18 times. They have accumulated 18 times the surpluses what we pay every year. So now the problem is that Singaporeans are first paying for the surplus and profits of these institutions, and second, they have accumulated surpluses that are 18 times bigger than what Singaporeans have to pay every year. We actually do not have to pay tuition fee because we are paying enough in taxes. What we're paying in tuition fees goes in the profits, so we are actually double or triple paying. And because these institutions have accumulated $18 billion in surpluses, which is 18 times what we pay every year, we're actually paying money to help them get rich while Singaporeans get poor. All this time while Singaporeans pay the 5th highest university fees in the world. Now, we pay our attention to this little problem here and we accuse international students of taking money away from Singaporeans. But the fact of the matter is, there is enough money to go around and Singaporeans can have free education today because we are paying enough and the universities have accumulated enough surpluses. So the question is, do you want to keep on in a system where we are actually paying enough in taxes and then funding the profits for these institutions, or do you want transparency and accountability from this government to tell you exactly what they're doing with your money so that you can make the decision as to what you want to do with the money and how it should be spent? Now, obviously, there's enough money to ensure that Singaporeans can have free education, or even if we want to pay a small amount, we can. But the fact of the matter is that this is doable and it's being done in some Western countries, even Eastern European countries, as well as the Nordic countries. There is free education. And Singapore has a GDP per capita that's one of the highest in the world, so there is no reason why Singaporeans still have to pay one of the highest fees in the world and earn one of the lowest wages among the rich countries. It doesn't make sense because Singaporeans are not earning enough to pay one of the highest fees in the world. We can have free education today, so it's your decision to make. Is it fair or not? Should we continue with this system? Should the PAP government be transparent to you? Do you need an answer? And should you vote for a government that will give you an answer and that will ensure that the money that you pay will be returned back to you and that you do not have to double pay on something that just allows them to earn profit? So this is something you should think about. There is one more thing that I forgot to add, and that is that the surpluses in the government institutions are transferred into the reserves, and the reserves are then channeled into the GIC to be managed by the GIC. Temasek Holdings also has access to these funds. So when we look at the amount of surpluses that are being generated in these public institutions, this is what we have to think about. Why is our money being channeled away for investments, and why are we double or triple, paying for these fees that are going into the reserves and then to these investment firms to help them earn, while Singaporeans are actually losing out on it? So something for you to consider and to think about whether this is the kind of system that you want and what you would do to vote for a system that would protect you and do what is right for you.